Hi, I'm Duncan from Dutch Uncles, and these are my 5 staples of the Manchester music scene. So first up on my whistle-stop tour of staples of Manchester, we're going to go to a radio station, which of course in Manchester there's a lot of them around. But this place is providing a vital voice for loose musicians and people like myself. It's called Reform Radio. So here we are, Reform Radio. The station itself only started in 2013 in a basement in South Manchester. It's now got a 24/7 operation. Let's go have a look. Here's the first room when you come in. We have the live room where I do a couple of my own shows. I'm currently doing a show called Super 8. It's a pop digest. It's a benefit to me because nothing forces you to find new music, quite like putting yourself in front of a microphone for 2 hours trying to half explain it all. We have a second studio, which has just been used for the very first live session. So we're kind of here on a Paramount day for Reform. And yeah, you can smell there's been a band in here. This is Studio 2, which is it's pretty much the same setup as Studio 1. As you can see, it's pretty kind of state-of-the-art. Reform only just moved into this place back in February this year. It's a very new operation for them. I've been doing a show with Reform for the last year now, so it's a really extraordinary experience just trying to talk to like-minded musicians and ask them questions that they really actually want to talk about outside of just the general work and press release stuff. Reform Radio's remit goes beyond music as well. Not only is it a radio station, it's also a project and workshop experience. Reform is becoming the vital voice now of local burgeoning talent. It's one that is kind of encouraging the grassroots of the potential of what the city has. So next up, we have gone right across town to the Northern Quarter. We're going to go to one of the oldest drinking holes in the city. It's called the Castle, got a cosy little venue in the back, and I suppose we'll talk about its history. As I said before, it's one of the oldest pubs in town. For me personally, it kind of played that essential role in any musician's life of being the post-practice drinking hole. So here we are in the venue space of the Castle Hotel pub. It's a very cosy, intimate space in town, especially for live bands, but it doesn't take away from like the size of band that's played here. I remember the first notable gig I saw here was Woo Life, in their very first gig as Woo Life, but that was back when they had like Joy Division posters pretty much holding up the walls in here before the refurb. Another notable experience was seeing a band called Films support my friend's band Fiction. 18 months later, they were winning the Mercury Prize as Alt J, so this place has seen a lot of big bands. If you were coming here unannounced, not knowing really what to expect, I would say for you, you'd probably get quite an edgy night. But essentially, there isn't really any other space quite like this in town, which is a surprising thing to say, especially with Manchester, vast breadth of venues. But this place certainly has a uniqueness to it. Good jukebox, good beer, good post-practice pints. Well, next up, we're going to go to the staple which any musical city would test its might on, the record shop. In this case, we're going to go to Piccadilly Records. You've probably heard of Piccadilly Records before. It is very much the record shop of Manchester, set up in the 90s, just down the road on Dale Street, and then before moving to Oldham Street. We're very thankful, personally, with the band to have a record shop of such magnitude, really, because they've been able to help us with our in-stores and how we celebrate launching albums properly at a decent price to the customer. Thankfully, we're not in the indie sale, but that being said, it is an honour to even be in the bargain bin in this place, which I do know from first-hand experience. The record store day events they do here as well are pretty phenomenal. And you'll often get either Tim Burgess who's serving you coffee, or you might even see Ian Brown in here. My friend and radio partner Patrick, he works here, and he's often found himself being a personal shopper for many a customer such as John Grant, James Murphy perhaps. So you never know who's going to be playing in town, but you can be guaranteed that someone's going to be in here doing some record shopping, so you never know who you're going to see in here. Next up in my list of venues, we're going to go to a place which pretty much transformed what was happening in this city 10 years ago, in fact. It's the Deaf Institute, what used to be a deaf and dumb institute back in Victorian days. So, the Deaf Institute, it basically creates a space for independent promoters to really actually make a name for themselves, such as Hey Manchester and Now Wave, two very prominent examples. I can remember coming to the first Now Wave club night they had here the week it opened. They had Scum opening up with The Joy Formidable headlining, and afterwards was a free entry club night, and it was a weekly thing every Wednesday. Give it to the people, do it for free. And it really sort of transformed the collective action of alternative listeners. All of a sudden we had a place to go again, and it was midweek and it was cheap and it was cheerful. And this was the space that did it. To describe what it's like playing in the venue upstairs, which is a phenomenal space, it's like playing in your ultimate crush's bedroom. And it turns out they're just the biggest music fan of all time. It's a stage where when you get up there, it makes you want to try out new things, and yet it also makes you want to play the best you've ever played at the same time. We've definitely had moments as Dutch Uncles doing many of our milestones up there, like our first album launch, first single release. It's the kind of gig where when you show up you go, you know what, we're going to try that cover, we're going to try that new song that we've not quite finished out yet, but the audience will get it and it's just going to go off and it's going to work out. Outside of the band stuff, it's also an incredible club space. I'm a bit biased on that because I do actually do quite a few club nights here myself. It is also a vegan restaurant on the ground floor as well. If I were to sum up the Deaf Institute into one sentence, I would say it's going to be a safe night. You're going to have a good time. That's two sentences. For my next stop on the Manchester Staples Tour, Dutch Uncles Special, we're going to go to the future of what Manchester's gigging scene looks like. We're going to Yes. So here we are on the third of 4 floors of Yes. This is the Pink Room, the main live space. Yes in itself is very much an accomplishment of the Manchester scene. It's been founded by local promoters Now Wave. So we've got 4 floors here. We'll start from the bottom. In the basement you have the club disco experience where the only music you'll really hear is what they profess to be weird shit. That's what's going on down there. Great space, great talking heads writing on the walls as well. Followed by that, we have the main room, which is kind of like a food hall bar area where I do a lot of DJing myself, actually. It's always a good vibe. In fact, I would say DJing in that room it's always been the most rewarding dance floors you get. Like anything that you're getting into at the moment, anything you want to introduce people to, you're going to get receptive audiences down there. And that is kind of the one thing that's really hard to find, especially around Manchester, surprisingly. Up onto the 3rd floor, here we are at the Pink Room, the live experience. Had the pleasure, the fortune, even of playing the opening night here with Dutch Uncles. Quite a raucous showcase. And then at the very top, we have the roof terrace with posh drinks. In its 9-month history, highlights that I've seen, Self-Esteem, Rebecca Taylor from Slow Club's new pop project, which was an extraordinary gig. It really kind of made full use of the sound system that they have here. I think the thing that Yes has, which is basically shaping where the city is going to head in regards to cultural spaces, is that it's a very collective space. It's not a big city, yet it's managing to fill out 4 floors of very different audiences, different ears, all coming together. And it's definitely showing a direction as to what's possible, what ideas are possible to reflect musically speaking. At the same time as that, it's also able to straddle the history of Manchester. We're only opposite the original Factory Records office, which has now been replaced by the Club Fact 251. And yet, here at Yes, a venue that's only 9 months old, it kind of has more in common with the history of Manchester than anywhere else, mainly due just to the fact they have a certain ratio doing monthly DJ sets, and they're even doing a festival here this month. If you were to sum up what Yes is doing for Manchester, it's providing 4 floors of the future of what's going on in this city. So that's my 5 staples of the Manchester music scene. Thank you for watching. First of all, shout out to all the venues that I have missed out. There are too many to mention. But of course, this was very much a personal selection of the band's history, the city's history, how it's changed over the last 10 years or so, and where it's going to go on from here. If you were to ask me what's so important or special about Manchester, all I can remember is that when we had the opportunity to leave, we didn't, because we knew just how much being a band from Manchester meant to us and meant to other people as well. But enough of what I've said about things. You've seen 5 of my places. There are countless others, and I implore you to come and try them for yourself.